wow, they upgraded the startup music on us. That was a cool little vibey little space thing. Hey everybody, my name's
Oh,
Mike Mercadal. With me as always is
William Watkins.
this is a show we like to call Collateral Benefit on the Zeros on Heroes podcast channel, or whatever you want to call it. We come on here. We talk about we wanted to get in shape, or I wanted to get in shape. I consulted my fitness friend Will Watkins, and then we realized, hey, everything you do to benefit your body somehow benefits other parts of your life that maybe you didn't plan on. But guess what? It's all benefit. It's all good. Um, if you're having questions or concerns about getting back in shape or getting in shape to begin with, or on a journey of self-improvement, and you have questions, you can ask us. We're not trained to know anything. We're just guys trying to do it just like everybody else. But with some a little more, I guess we were on a little further along the path.
Yeah.
I guess or if you have advice, and maybe you're a little further along the path than we are, or more professionally trained, or more knowledgeable, you can share with us as well. We have ways to interact with us. You can join us at Zeros on Heroes on all social media platforms, at Mike Mercadal, at William A. Watkins. That's our social medias individually, but you can also send us an email at zerosonheroes@gmail.com. We do check it throughout the show. If you're in the chat, jump in there. We love getting comments from everybody, asking us questions, sharing with us, giving us weird stretching exercises to try and watch us flex on stream, which has happened more than one. It's that whole Doofenshmirtz thing. If I had a nickel for every time that happened, I'd have two nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, send us an email at zerosonheroes at gmail.com. And we'll try to answer your questions. If not, we'll look it up. We'll go through our process of vetting the information. I think that's also kind of important for people to understand that, like, searching out the appropriateness and accuracy of information is just as important as, like, putting it into action. Like, there's nothing worse, like when someone tells you something and you're like, I don't know if that's true. That is a very powerful tool in your
Yeah.
toolbox. But yeah, that's what we're here to do. We focus on the three aspects that we like to focus on is improving your body, classic fitness, and then how that improves sometimes your mental outlook. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes but if it does, how? And then how do you then take that out into the world, and how, like, you present yourself physically, or how it has affected your ability to overcome hardship, and maybe how that's improving the relationships around you, teaching you patience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love doing the show with you. We always end up, I always feel better afterwards than when we start. So I thank you for joining us today. We were off last week. What
Yeah.
have you gotten up to
What have
since
I
we
gotten up
last
to?
recorded? If you were to make a highlight reel of your last 2 weeks, what are some highlights?
Ooh, I just ate a leftover burrito
Ooh,
and it
that's
was
a
pretty good.
highlight
It
or low light? I mean, it was a good burrito, so highlight.
Yeah, highlight. Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
from one of those places where there's like a grandson is doing homework in the corner,
Oh, okay.
and like it's like a family thing where it's like the son isn't doing homework, and then there's like the grandfather's playing, pretending to do a crossword puzzle, but he's really just staring at people. So the food is
Uh,
great. Food is great.
yes, yes. The
If there's a
vibe
kid,
was,
if you go to like a Chinese food place or like a Mexican place and there's a kid doing homework, it's like it's going to be good food because that's like family authentic food.
yes, instant authenticity from the yellowed menus on the yellowed plastic on the layers of, like, of grease smoke, like how there's like if you look up and you're like, there's certain parts that's the part they clean, but then just a little past it you're like, hey, wait a minute, this
Yeah,
place is gonna
yeah,
be great. Just far away so that it doesn't smell bad, but that it's still, that there's been a lot of mileage on these walks, there's been a lot of mileage on these comals, you know
yeah. Like there's a couple places in New York where it's like it'll be like a Chinese food place, and I'll pop my head in, and there's like like a TV with all the menu items, and
mm.
it's like a brand new TV. I'll walk past it and I'll go to the place that has, like you said, like the weathered,
Yeah.
been there since 1987, and they just like take a piece of duct tape and put it over the prices as they increase the prices. Like that's the
Yes,
place
that
you want.
it's also like that does strike. So my first thought is, how does this fit into the show? Because there is this idea of like self improvement, but there are some things that you don't improve on, right? Like you don't like there's certain things, even if you want to, there's a certain element of like, I'm sure they at some point someone was like, we gotta look at our menus and modernize, and we gotta put new stuff up there, and then someone would have to say, no, we're fine. You know what I mean? Like the Arizona iced tea guy, where
Oh
they're
yeah,
like, oh, why don't you raise the prices on your Arizona iced tea? He's like, why? We're good. We own everything. We have no debt. We're just making sweet sugary drinks for the people. Why not? So give me $1. Like
yeah.
that's the
I do feel like that goes into over into like exercise selection, where it's like, especially
mm,
with like Instagram and social media and YouTube, it's like try these top 10 new exercises that's gonna, and it's like, hey man, just push, pull. That's all you
Someone
gotta
needs to
do.
tell me when work.
oops, sorry, that was a thing that I wanted to discuss. But
Oh, cool. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like, people still do bench press and squatting and deadlifts for a reason. Like those are the ones.
Those are the
And
ones.
you can have accessory exercises, obviously, but it's not like, hey, throw out everything you know and try this new
Yeah.
TikTok thing. I was listening to this Peter Attia
It's like
podcast, and he
yeah.
was talking about, and it's actually Mike Israel was on it as the guest, and he was saying that he hates it when he sees personal trainers who are having like, you know, moms with 3 kids having them do like single arm rear delt cable flies, and it's like, what is she training for?
Yeah. What is that?
Does she
What
have a competition coming up that she needs to do
that is, yeah,
specific training?
unless there is a genuine need to work a physical therapy for that shoulder injury or whatever, that something, there's no, it's like that's hyper specific. What a waste of time, I guess. Like that's the idea of like when someone is like, oh, you got to chew sugarless gum. That Kevin James joke when he gets someone like at weight loss advice, and it's like, yeah, because I've been getting fat off bazooka. Like that's such a hyper specific exercise for the thing that's probably not going to get the most result. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's so funny to me.
yeah,
The
yeah.
what were you saying? I'm sorry.
I heard Bradley Cooper one time. Somebody asked him what his diet training was, diet and exercise for the A-Team movie. And at
Mm.
the time, this is when I was first starting to
E.T.
understand what.
movie.
Yeah, I was
What
first
a
starting
pull.
to get into the knowledge, and it was very. I was absorbing everything I could about how to, lose this massive amount of fat I had, and then his advice was, what's a real killer is condiments. So stop putting ketchup on things. And I was like, I'm not gonna stop putting ketchup on things to save 3 calories. How
How much ketchup are you
insane! Yeah.
putting? I mean, how much? Like, I get the like. If I put up, those. I was a guilty of this as a child of putting like way too much salad dressing on my salads, where it
Oh
was
yeah,
no
yeah.
longer. You
Ranch.
know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. Where you just put like a goop of ranch on there, and I still kind of do it every now and again because I'm like, ooh, I love. I'm a Thousand Island person. I think Thousand Island is the superior dressing to ranch dressing.
Just straight up mayonnaise with
It
ketchup in
is.
it.
It's just the worst. But it's one of those things where like, yeah, of course that's bad, but also there's that's like when people try to lose weight. I am a proponent, less so now, but I can't deny that it really worked for me, of the 4 Hour Body, the Tim Ferriss book. The diet in that book, it also has a lot of other weird shit. I don't know if you ever talked about that, but there's a lot of weird stuff in that book. That we try the diet worked for me, and there's no doubt about it. Why, like that? I'm trying to remember why I brought this up. God, what was I going to say? Shit. Remind me what we were talking about because this is my ADHD is
Condiments,
fire. Yeah.
ketchup is not that bad. You read
No,
a
no.
book.
Yeah, the oh, that the when someone's trying to like lose weight and they're focused on like the very narrow view of what they are supposed to be eating, right? Like they're like, oh, it feels exclusionary and all that stuff. And then the first thing in the book, this is a very real deal thing, is take a picture of everything you eat and put it in a folder on your phone. And then at the end of the day, every day, but if something goes in your mouth, take a picture of it. This is what I was trying to get at, of the
Yeah,
accountability of like, oh, you think you put too much salad dressing? It's not the salad dressing. You know what I mean? It's take a picture of litter because so many people do things without like being aware of what
yeah,
they're putting in their bodies. But so there's a certain level of accountability that goes into it. So if someone's like putting a pound of dressing on their salad, that's one thing. But did you take a picture of that caramel macchiato milkshake that you drank? Probably
yeah,
not. Did you take a picture of that bat? You know, like someone, the handfuls of shit that you grab in the office walking by, the little, oh, these are killer for me. Like little Danishes, or like Valentine's Day just popped up. So they put like little, everyone has their like leftover, like, or not leftover, but like all of the Valentine's candy is just floating around in public
yeah,
spaces. And you're just encouraged to grab it. Did you take a picture of that? Probably not. So it's like, there's so much of the stuff that if your awareness of it like it's again it feels like the focus is hyper specific about, oh, I can't eat french fries. It's like, yeah, but are you counting how many of those random bagels that you got from when they serve when you have a business meeting
yeah,
in a board, when they have like fucking muffins out there? Those muffins have calories in them too, you know, like they're all it all counts. So that was the what I was gonna I'm a proponent of that idea that you have to then like take a full inventory, like
yeah,
don't, not a selective inventory, not a, oh yeah, the condiments are bad. It's like, no, but like, did you take a picture of literally everything else you're eating? Once you can get past that, then it's like, oh, okay, if I'm really trying to lose weight and I've really taken care of a lot of the bad things, but I need that extra edge, then maybe only mustard, right? Like just put mustard on stuff because that has no calories.
yeah,
But you already have to have gotten pretty far in your process to account for that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's like what do you call it? Like Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about it. I think what's his name? John Meadows also talked about it.
mm,
These, classic bodybuilders, and they said back in the day when Mrs. Dash first came out, it was like
mm,
a revelation because they didn't have to eat plain chicken anymore because they were worried about their sodium and this and that. And it's like,
yeah, yeah.
but it's also very like American centric cuisine was, but because it's like if you put like you know West Indian spices on it, you can still have flavor and not add calories and stuff. Like you can put hot sauce on it, you can put, oh, there's all sorts of things that have very low calories that you can use to flavor your food. But for like the longest time, I was like, I gotta eat this boiled chicken and broccoli. No, my God, it's like, yeah, you can
Yeah,
still have delicious food.
like literally, I just googled calorie free seasonings, and
Yeah,
Mrs. Dash is on there, and it's literally just like straight up normal seed, like it's just herbs.
yeah,
It's just herbs and spices. You know what I mean? Like it's like, yeah, you don't have to put MSG on it, but it's also like cumin is fine.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like
Paprika, whatever.
oregano, paprika. Paprika is just dried red bell peppers.
Yeah,
It's literally just that. Like it's so funny to me when people don't. That's a real disconnect I think people have with like with food, like the idea of like what is like when people oh, man, I don't know if you've been my social media circle, my TikTok algorithm has been feeding me critiques of Americans against British cuisine and the British people losing their mind. You know what I'm talking about? Have you been aware of this in some
I've seen
way?
I've seen a few of these like on YouTube and stuff. Like I
Okay.
see like the two dudes who come from
Yes.
Jolly, I think it's called.
Yeah, so there's like a variety of these
Yeah,
channels, like reaction channels, where they give like British kids
yeah, yeah, yeah,
traditional American Southern food, or and they'll give them like there's like I've seen videos where like British people are eating like Popeyes for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first time, and it's nothing special. It's just a Popeyes chicken sandwich, and they're like losing
Oh,
their ever loving minds. They're freaking out. Like they had a straight up like um what do they call it? Like biscuits and gravy, and like
ooh.
those kind of like super like traditional southern things. It's like a bazillion calories, but it's just like loaded with flavor, right? And then these British guys in the U.S. and like there's like this one girl from like northern England or Yorkshire. I don't know where she's exactly from, but she's got like the Ed Stark accent, and she goes and she's like tries like different foods and she's like loses her mind. Like every time a British person eats ranch dressings, it's like the episode of The Simpsons where Homer takes a bite out of the McRib sandwich, and you see like his pupils dilate and everything like goes into his brain, and he's having like it turns into like he's traveling around chasing the rib witch sandwich, like they're the Grateful Dead, like it's drugs to them. They look like that. They're like eating all of this insane. Cut to there's a food reviewer that he got famous on TikTok called Keith Lee. Black guy. Yeah, he's like actually a former fighter, and then he just started doing like these food reviews in town in Las Vegas of I'm gonna try it and rate it 1 through 10. It's all opinion based. He says it's entirely subjective, and the thing is that he tries to find places that are lesser known, family owned and operated, and to give it like and that are struggling, and to see are you struggling because marketing or whatever, or is the food really bad? So he just goes in there, and it's sort of built up over time, and to the point where he started going to other cities, and these other city like these restaurants where he like reviews it, and they like he went to Atlanta, there was an ordeal because the service was bad and people were treating him like he just said a restaurant was bad and people lost their minds like, and so he's just a guy who's giving his subjective opinion and people eat him up about it. Then he goes to London, and so he just recently went to Europe. He's going to go to like London and some other places. And he was trying traditional British cuisine. Now, London is one of the biggest food cities in the world.
Yeah.
The restaurants in London are supposedly amazing, but that's not where he goes to. He doesn't go to the fancy restaurants. He goes to the traditional places. So he tried to have traditional British food, like a English breakfast, a full English breakfast,
Yeah, yeah.
like these meat pie things or whatever. The small mom and pops in London that are good, that he's found that are good, are all the like Caribbean, West African, like all of the ethnic foods, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
that people move, they emigrate to the UK, and then they set up a shop, and then they sell their jollof rice and they're all that stuff. The ones that he has of like apparently it's like a British thing that it's like they call them jacket potatoes, but it's a baked potato
Uh-huh.
with cheese, their version of beans from the
Oh yeah,
can,
yeah.
and tuna. Now, okay, apparently this is a thing that they eat over there, right? This thing that beans on toast, the things you make fun of. Like I'm not opposed to beans. Like I'm Latino. Beans
Yeah.
are like we have beans. Like that's our thing. Mexicans, beans all over the place. Delicious. The thing is that they eat like what the equivalent of like struggle meals. Like they put
Yeah.
starch on starch on starch. Like they'll put beans on potatoes on bread. Like I'm not kidding. There was literally, and then they deep fry it or something. It's just like this insane mushy peas.
Yeah.
Like mushy peas. It's just this wild kind of thing of like that. Jellied eels is actually a real thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so the whole point is that these are things that they're whatever, and then he just gave his opinion and people are like losing their minds. The problem is they were the reason I brought this up is because there's every culture is like allowed their foods and their weird foods. It's going to be weird to other people, and when you taste it, you taste it. And he always is polite. This guy Keith Lee, he's always polite about the that might be an acquired taste. I have not acquired that taste. It might be for somebody, but it's not for me. He's very diplomatic, and so he posts this thing. People are, and then it's created like this kind of odd culture discrepancy where people forget that the British invaded the world for spices. And then once spices became readily available to the classes, the aristocracy and the upper class people were like, that's a sign of poor people. Flavor is a sign of poor people. And then that is also filtered back down. So it's like your perceptions of like how food is so based, like it's so fucking removed from what it is to be nourished
Yeah.
and healthily like fueled, that it's like little microcosms of it pop up all the time, especially in social media, where you see that these people like losing their minds over beans on toast, and they're saying the beans are fresh from the can. And I just giggle at it. I'm just like, this is wild. And then in the comments, there's like of course, there's like all the black people talking about seasoning, and then all of the Latinos talking about like, don't talk shit about beans. We got beans, like, and then it's like this kind of like cultural, like everyone's trying to just poke fun at the y'all invaded the world for spices and don't use a single one, and they just have salt and pepper on. That's their version of like
Yeah.
thing. And then they try the rebuttals of the British are also pretty funny. Like, oh, it's that Americans, they don't know what the natural flavors of the food is supposed to take. Like, dude, you just said beans were fresh from a can. It's
Like
what are you talking about?
that argument can be made if you have like a very nice cut of steak. If you have a if you have a nice New York strip and you
Mm-hmm.
just put salt and pepper on it and sear it, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Taste the actual meat. But if you're, beans, right, fucking add
Like,
some flavor to it.
yes. So oh man, I wish I could like dump out all of the feed that taught me that has shown me all of this stuff, because it is so funny. Because someone did like a reinterpretation of it. She did it in kind of a snarky way, which I didn't like it. It's like she was basically shitting on beans on toast, and did like a southern version of southern black version, essentially soul
Yeah.
food version of beans on toast, which was like cornbread and baked beans, which I was like, yeah, like that's not the problem. The problem is not the construction. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that. That's not the problem. The problem is that they're putting canned like ketchupy beans on white bread,
Yeah.
and it's just like all the comments are like, why does it look hot and cold at the same time? Why does it look wet and dry at the same time? You know what I mean? It's like why? What is going on here? And because it just looks like
Yeah. I
an
love those ones
unfortunate
where it's just
cultural
like
divide.
it's just mush on mush on mush. And like I've
Yeah.
seen people say like, you guys know you aren't being bombed by the Germans anymore, right? You don't have to eat
Yeah.
this. But yeah,
You-
it's funny. It's funny. The thing about the spices is that here's a revelation I had recently, which is that I'm a huge fan of soul food, like
yeah.
some good spicy. I love some good seasoned fried chicken. I want the good black eyed peas. I love all that. And every time I've gone to a soul food restaurant in New York, it's been disappointing. And I had the realization that I think it has to do with the fact that in America there was that whole like Henry Kellogg movement with the temperance movement, where they were like,
Yes.
if you eat anything spicy, it's gonna make you horny. So we need to take out all the spices and flavorings. This puritanical belief. And so I believe this is my theory is that because if you go down south, all the white people are they love flavored food. They love, it's the classic thing of the Louisiana people. You just if it doesn't make my asshole burn, I don't want the hot
Yeah.
sauce. But
Yeah.
like,
There's it.
but in the
Yeah.
north, it's like, oh, this potato is spicy, and it's just like
Yeah.
a regular baked potato. But I feel like there might be some thing where like the soul food in New York was influenced by the bland taste palette of the white aristocracy, so it
I
kind
also
of
don't think I
diluted
don't.
it.
I think it's literally people who gaslight themselves because of, like, at a certain point, getting sun and getting a tan was viewed as like a thing wealthy people do. But then there were people who would see that the people in the fields, the poor people, were tanned from the sun from work.
Yeah,
So then the push became to make yourselves as alabaster white as possible, and people would literally bleeding themselves to give themselves that pallor of like white skin.
yeah,
And because they did not want to be viewed as poor. And like, while I understand the that I don't. I'm not going to give anybody. It's stupid to then like to change. It's crazy how much influence that has, right? Like over the course of time, where people's ideas on what health means is just solely influenced by like one crazy lady or
Yeah.
one dumb guy. Like this guy, Ansel Keys, who's like the guy who kind of started the low fat craze in the
Oh
United
yeah, yeah.
States. He's the one that made McDonald's change from fucking beef tallow to vegetable shortening. That I'll murder that. I'll dig that guy up again and kill him again. I will murder him twice for doing that, because what they have learned since then is that a lot of the high levels of lycopene in these vegetable oils, and I'm not a big seed oil guy, eat whatever it is, but there's a certain amount of like the true natural animal fats are less likely to have high levels of lycopene and certain things that are known to be carcinogenic in certain volumes. I'm not going
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
here and quote something I don't really know, but that they're basically saying like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, beef tallow is fine. You know, like it's just fine. It's all good. The concept of cholesterol causing heart attacks is based on just the connection of numbers after the fact. Like there's no proof that one directly causes the other. There's a correlation, right? So
Yeah.
like people who have died of heart attacks, overwhelming majority or high majority have high levels of cholesterol in their blood, or high at the time of death, or like have had, you know, like buildups of plaque in their arteries and all that stuff. But some people, that's a genetic thing. Some people, you know, like some people have high levels of like something hypolipid A, which is like there's no treatment for it. You just have high levels of it and you're more likely to get heart attacks. That's just the luck of the draw, you
Yeah,
know.
there was also I've heard several doctors talk about this where they say it's almost like any sort of medical research in relation to this prior to like 1989
Mm.
is almost void and null, because like they say like, oh, you know, the people who eat red meat were having heart attacks and dying, and it's like, yeah, but Don Draper was also eating, I mean,
Drinking
drinking
like
drinking scotch and
yeah.
smoking like crazy, and like his, you know, not getting exercise, and you know, the whole culture around that time was like, hey, let's smoke cigars and drink
It's all
alcohol, and
marketing, dog. It's all marketing. So, like, literally, the ideas that we have about farming and what food actually is all marketing, right? Like, GMO is the most crazy term literally every domesticated product on Earth. If it is not growing wild from the ground, and even then, it's gone full circle. Where some of the stuff that we domesticated gets like grows into, you know, freely in some forest randomly. There's like these blueberries that originated from some
yeah.
it's all literally everything on the earth is GMO, whether
I
it's
s- I've seen
artificially GMO or naturally GMO. We're all genetically modified. Like
I laugh whenever
it's
I
so
go into
crazy.
like a produce section and it's like, try these organic lemons, non-GMO. It's like, my brother in Christ,
Yeah,
lemons were manufactured by humans. It
yeah,
was a mixture of
that's not a
was a
natural.
citron and
Yeah,
what else? And it's like a lime or whatever it is, and it's like we made that.
it's all marketing. It's amazing. Like the problem is that the more you scratch the surface, the more like in doubt you should be. You should be more doubtful. You shouldn't be searching for confirmation bias when you go look. Like you shouldn't look up lemons GMO blah blah blah, and then when you get the 9 million articles that say, "Oh yeah, no, we created it with the citron." Like every plant is a broccoli. Like every broccoli, everything, whatever that plant that broccoli comes from,
Yeah,
every vegetable is the same thing. Also, vegetable is not a real botanical term. It's not a
yeah,
biological term. It's a culinary term. So that's why like tomato is a fruit. You know, of course it is. Bananas are berries, technically. You know, like
yeah,
all of these things, like the vegetable, when they tell you, oh, the food pyramid, whatever, it used to have a certain number of servings of fruit and vegetables. All that. What if you ask them to define what a vegetable is? They wouldn't. Also, corn is not a vegetable; it's a grain. You know, like all of these little things that kind of come into. Also, corn, intensely human manufactured corn,
yeah,
like that is. It's carrots are supposed to be purple and brown and red and all kinds of, like, not supposed to be. That's just what they were until we decided they should look different. Watermelon. Have you ever seen an old watermelon? It looks like a giant cucumber
yeah.
because we picked the ones that had the most sugary meat inside. You know, like that was a weird way to put it, I know, but you understand what I'm saying. So like
Yeah.
whenever there's all these conversations about health and nutrition, there's always that anybody who's telling you they know something for a fact is lying, just inherently wrong, right? There is ideas and methodologies and concepts and all these things, but ultimately, like going back to one of our early episodes, we are medicinal babies. The study of biology and medicine, all these things have only been made possible in the last maybe 50 years, 100 years max,
Yeah,
where I was watching I was watching Nosferatu. Did you watch the new
I have seen
Nosferatu
that.
movie?
Yeah,
And dude comes in talking about bleeding her from her congestion of blood, and the concept of humors is less, like when they stopped bleeding people and draining their pus and their bile or whatever, like all of these things are not that old. Like super young. Like certain businesses, like Coca-Cola is young. It was probably around when they developed when the humors were still being used as medicinal practice. Like it's crazy to me how anybody can claim anything with a sense of like authority without it being something that is like, inherent. Food, you eat food to live. Great. Yes.
yeah.
Universal truth. But this food is good, this food is bad. I was like, define good or bad. Define what this food is. Define what, it starts to get very gray. So the whole point of this that I'm leaning towards is anytime you hear somebody give you a suggestion about like their connection to food, what's right or wrong, or you're trying to you're there's always going to be a certain amount of influence. We're doing it right now. Influence
Yeah.
like expressed to you, and you're the one that ultimately chooses your path, right? Like that's kind of, you're the one in control of how influenced you can be once you're aware of it.
Yeah, it's that thing where it's like whenever people ask me to train them or give them advice, I always say like, listen, I know how to train for me. I have over the course of my life and I knowledge of my own medical history, I know the kind of exercises I need to do in, this order on these days. But it's also, when somebody's like, hey man, I want to go to the gym. I'm thinking about doing this kind of a split. I'm like, what are you training for? Are you training to be hypertrophy, or are you just training for
Hmm.
general fitness? Because you can do full body. You don't have to split up your days. You can do an entire body.
Just go,
Uh,
dude. Yeah.
yeah, do some bicep curls, do some push-ups, do some squats on the same day. As long as you're not like killing yourself, you can like. There was a thing where it's like, oh, you can't. You have to put 48 hours in between each muscle group. It's like, but really, it's like whatever. If you're not feeling bad, you can train every muscle every day if you wanted to, as long as you don't injure yourself. But yeah, to the point of the nutrition thing, there was this different Dr. Micah is a general practitioner physician,
Mm.
Mikhail Brzezowski, whatever his name is. But
Mm.
he was had this debate with you know what Dr. Gundry is, one of those like quack dietitian people,
So
and
throw a rock, you hit a quack on the internet.
so
Yeah.
this medical Dr. Mike was like pressing him on all these things, and the guy was like squirming because no, I don't think anybody's ever like called him out on it before. He was like, "In your book, you say that grapes are sugar bombs, and you might as well
Oh
just eat
yes,
a
a
Hershey's
Hershey
bar."
bar. Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's there's so much sugar in grapes. It's you shouldn't eat grapes at all." And he was like, "Yeah, but you're saying it's equivalent to eating a Hershey bar." And then the guy like pivoted. He was like, "Well, you know, dark chocolate has a lot of antioxidants." And he was like, "No, but you didn't say dark chocolate. You
Yeah.
said a Hershey bar, which is different from dark chocolate." And that's like the same dude who was like, "Well, you can eat tomatoes, just you have to peel the skin off of them because the skin's the bad part, and you can't do this, blah blah blah." And it's like, man, what are you? You're just trying to sell these like I have the secret, so you should buy my book.
Yeah. There's so many people. Yeah. The idea that someone can say this is, I guess, look, this is a big problem in the world, and not just food, not just health and fitness. The concept that but let's talk about it. RFK Jr. is like the head of the, what is he, the Attorney General? What is he? What is he thing? The Surgeon
Oh, the
General,
no, the Jesus Christ.
the head of the food. He's the health the health guy in our country
Yeah,
now. He's I forget the title. But I like that guy believes, no, that guy promotes insane things. He himself has all his kids are vaccinated. He's vaccinated. Everybody's vaccinated. But he'll go out and say that, oh, that it is that vaccines cause injury to children. because they can't say it caused autism anymore. So now they say injury, the vaccine injury. And it's like, okay, specifically what? Well, studies, no, they haven't. So, like this is important because a lot of blood on these pants, like there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it that the spreading of misinformation, while you may not see your point, your one little step in the chain could cause problems for people. Like I'm sure the guy that Luigi Mangione allegedly killed, the guy that got the CEO of United Healthcare that got shot by some random hero.
Yeah.
I'm sure he never thought of him as being like, eventually I'm going to grow up I'm eventually going to be the leading cause of death for millions of people, because that's essentially what it is, lack of treatment. So it's like it's one of those things where like the broader your scope, the more narrow you can point at, like, that's a problem. That's a problem. Like once you zoom out a little bit, you can see where things are like, wait a minute, what's this? What's that? So answer me this. I need more specificity here. This is not as important as this because, like, oh, trans kids, that does not affect as many people. It affects a classroom more if a kid is left-handed than it does if they are trans, because that means they got a whole new desk in there. They got to go buy a desk with a left-handed thing so that the kid can write with his left hand. And like that is more impactful than if the kid is like, I identify as non-binary. You know what I mean? Like none of that shit doesn't matter, but we're focusing on, like, zoom out. You'll see that whatever you're hyper focused on is not the big deal. Your ketchup is not the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing where it's like for like the trans debate. Oh, the trans kids are playing sports. So scary. Like trans people account for 0.1% of the population, which means trans kids, 1 out of like 1,000 schools will have a trans kid. And then like if you break that down even further, it's like out of all the kids in the school, maybe like 40% participate in sports. So now you got like what's that, 1 in 4,000 school, or one in 2,000
40,000.
schools,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, so one kid out of 2,000 schools is causing such a problem that you need to take away gay marriage.
We have someone claiming themselves to be king of the United States right now because of that. That's the thing that you focused on. Like that's what it feels like. So to bring it back around to like health and fitness and all that stuff, like especially how it connected everything. This is gonna be one of those venti episodes, not Starbucks size 20
Grande.
ounce, but not grande, but like a vent. We're venting because of how frustrating it can all feel when people don't see the big picture of like what's really important. Like if you go from there's that constant like stream of misinformation about diet sodas, right? Like if you go from drinking perfectly natural, healthy everything, you've not had one problem, you maintain the picture of health, everything you consume is all natural and grown on your own farms, no pesticides, you are responsible for its production in every possible way, and all of a sudden you start drinking diet sodas, you might feel bad, you might not enjoy, you might feel bad. But if you go from drinking a 2-liter bottle of Coke every day, eating fatty foods and doing all kinds of stuff, that one, like the timeline of your progress is important as to what the problems you need to correct are. Like if you're in debt, they always say the highest interest things, pay that off first, because that's the shit that's going to cost you the most money in the long run. So if you got credit card debt, get rid of that before you take on any other thing, because that's 20 whatever percent interest. Like that's the whole point, is like attack again, the Tim Ferriss book, there's a concept called the minimum effective dose, where what's the minimum amount of work to get the maximum amount of result. And like doing squat, the muscle, the calorie burning factories of your body are your butt and your legs. That's if you can build those up, you will just incidentally build up your default, your base metabolic rate, or whatever term bullshit, whatever the actual
basal metabolic rate,
whatever
it's
the reality
metabolic
is.
Rate and NEAT,
right. So if you're building up all of these muscle masses, the most effective ones, it will make the most impact. If you're gonna if you're eating a birthday cake every day, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, maybe I stop eating a whole birthday cake every day. The result, and everything else is healthy. Like you're just like, yeah, I eat a light salad for lunch, and then whatever, and then for dinner, a whole birthday cake. If you change the birthday cake to some lean protein, and maybe some rice and vegetables or whatever, and a slice of birthday cake. From going from the whole to the slice, you will see the result of that. You know what I mean? Like it's all about context,
Yeah, it's also like people take studies out of context. Where the thing about
Yeah.
the soda, one of the things that infuriates, or not infuriates me, but makes me realize I'm not talking with a person who has critical thinking skills, is when they say, "Oh, these studies they show that most people who drink diet sodas are overweight," and it's like, yeah, you could also do a similar study that says most people with a cast on their arm have a broken arm,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that doesn't mean the cast broke their arm.
Yeah.
The
That's
so they're drinking the diet soda so that they can fix the fat part. You have a
yeah.
cast on your arm to fix the broken arm. But then you do, like, you can use an actual study where it says, hey,
Yeah.
you had two groups of people, one drank who were trying to lose weight, one drank only water, and one drank diet sodas.
Hmm.
And that study showed that people who drank diet sodas lost more weight than the people who just drank water.
Yeah.
Because the people who drank water were like, fuck, I need a soda. And they drank a Coca Cola full sugar. They were more
Right.
likely
Yeah.
to break their diet than the people who drank the diet sodas. So
Yeah.
it's like you can take studies however way, but like take the study as they were meant to be seen. Don't just like pick and choose, like, oh well,
Yeah.
fat people drink diet sodas.
It's, again, this goes back to the cholesterol in the blood at the time of death of heart attack victims,
Yeah.
where again it's like I always point out to like when someone quotes a study and then you look at the date the study was done and you're like, oh, this is before women could vote. And then you're like, you know what I mean? Like, wait a minute, wait, I'm sorry. Have there been updates since then? Did the civil rights movement happen? Because those were all still lines of thinking. Like I always go back to the MSG guy, this one racist
Oh
dude
yeah,
who
yeah,
hates
yeah.
Chinese people, and then he's like, MSG gave me a headache, and it's bad. So that must mean it's bad for you, and it's something that people still say. People still talk about it, and it's been like scientifically proven. But because it's the Marilyn Manson removing two ribs to suck his own dick thing, why do people? We all know that did not happen. Marilyn Manson is a horrible person. You can hate him for a number of other reasons, but
Yeah.
that's not something he did. And it's always, or it's another pop culture story that everybody rumors is blah 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 blah, and then it all spreads. And this is pre-internet, so I still don't. It's still a mystery how everyone knew this in the '90s.
And it's
But
interesting. Yeah, it's also interesting. Like, for instance, like the food pyramid. Like everybody knows, like the food pyramid had
mm,
various interests and lobbyists who
mm,
created it over time, and it always got changed up based on if Big Sugar was giving him money, or if Big
mm,
Oats or Big Corn or whatever it was. But somebody pointed out there was like, yeah, but nobody ever followed the food pyramid, so like it didn't matter.
yeah,
Like, who do you know who was like, all right, guys, I need to make sure I ate this many servings of vegetables and I ate this many servings of
yeah,
fruit and I ate this many. And it's like, nobody did that.
nobody
Nobody
did
actually
that.
followed food pyramid, but they used it as a boogeyman once a slight part of it was debunked. Where it's
Yeah.
like, but like if you do look at it, it's like, yeah, eat vegetables, eat fruits, eat protein.
There's a documentary called King Corn. I saw it years ago. And it basically shows how it was a government. The reason why all the farms grow corn in the United States, as opposed to like other things, like they started pushing soybeans later on, but like literally it was a government mandate that we were going to corner the corn market by this guy who worked for the Nixon administration named Earl Butz. The guy's name is Earl Butz, and he was the head of agriculture, some shit like that. And he just basically he paid farmers, don't farm anything that would provide versatility to your business. Don't farm anything that isn't corn, because it's going to go to feeding, because we're going to corner the feed market for cattle. So that became, so when you think of corn-fed beef, that's not the way that you put a bunch of cows in the middle of a cornfield. They're not touching the corn.
Yeah.
They're only eating that because we feed them that. So and corn, the way we've genetically modified, it's this whole thing about how like suddenly there's an excess of corn. What do we make? We got to figure out what to use this corn for. What's where high fructose corn syrup comes from. Like all of this stuff ends up and you know, you mentioned big corn and big oil and big thing. Those are, I'm sick of that shit because those are a bunch of wealthy billionaires hiding behind some label of an industry. It's
Yeah.
this guy who runs this company and this guy who's the head of this company. It's these guys, these fucking rich guys that run shit, corner, you know, try to make more money by making all these farmers grow corn. Then when their fields are corned out because corn is a highly like resource heavy thing, their land can no longer sustain new crops. So they have to buy fertilizer from somebody. Then they got to go buy fertilizer in the way that they can't sustain on their own. Guess who comes in and buys their fucking farm? Some commercial industrialized farming or organization comes in and steals their family farm that's probably been in their shit for years, in their family for years, and now there's only just like two big farms. It's all, once again, capitalism is the enemy of humanity. The health and nutrition of every person is being impacted by marketing for billionaires, and that's, and just the language we use alone is part of it. So it's you know, like push-ups are free.
Yeah.
Find something to hang from and do pull-ups. You know, running is free. Find it help. My wife had started going to this. I went with her this Saturday. So I had a rare Saturday off. We went in the morning to the Hollywood Bowl, and they do
Oh.
runs. They do run up and down the stairs in the Hollywood Bowl. Like it's like totally in the middle of the hills. And it's beautiful. The Hollywood signs there, and it's amazing. Everybody's there bringing their dogs and stuff, and it's like the most LA thing you've ever seen in your life. But it's for freezies.
Yeah.
It's gratis. It is just you know, it doesn't cost any money to enrich yourself and to do athletics. But I'll tell you what, if you don't go to Equinox, you're a loser. You know, like that kind of like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh. But it's true. But it's like that, and I wish food had a similar kind of grace, where
What's that?
someone is like, "Oh, I eat potatoes. They're very healthy and very filling, so I don't end up snacking a lot." And then people are like, "Oh, starch will kill you." It's like, easy, buddy. You know,
Yeah.
like easy.
I've seen some people discuss this, and I kind of agree with it. Where for the longest time I was like, oh, you know, it's being poor sucks because you know you can't always eat the healthiest foods and stuff like that, and taking out like food deserts and stuff.
Mm,
What they pointed out was that there are plenty of foods that are extremely cheap that you can eat that are very healthy, canned frozen vegetables, or you know they're
frozen
still good,
vegetables, yeah.
and they pointed out that but they don't taste good because we've been so conditioned by all these companies that have been adding flavors and salts and this chemical and that chemical to enhance the flavors, and instead of beef tallow they're using you know vegetable oils, but they have to add all these other things to make the vegetable oil taste like beef tallow, and so now when we get the actual, you know, if you wanted to, you could survive off of eating a can of tuna fish and an apple and you know frozen spinach, but you don't add anything to those to make them taste good. Like you know, you got to add butter to the spinach, and you got to add Parmesan cheese, and you got to add
Mm.
you know all those other additives. You know
I mean,
you
it
got
does sound good.
yeah, yeah, no,
It
it's
does sound,
delicious,
yeah, yeah. Butter on the broccoli,
but it's
sure, why
also
not? Butter
like
and cheese.
to eat the volume of that amount of food to meet your calorie needs in a healthy way is extremely bland, and
Mm.
it's not bland, but it's but
Yeah,
our society has been so conditioned to if it doesn't taste good, I don't want to eat it.
right. Yeah, I guess so. We're kind of back to the British bad food thing
Yeah, I was like, oh, let me
of
see if I can loop this back
yeah,
in.
to loop it back around because it's true. Like the idea of I don't think like I think also the idea of what seasonings are is also kind of limited. Like when
Yeah.
people talk about putting paprika on a meal that was cooked with like fresh garlic, fresh onions, fresh peppers, like when we make sofrito, like the base for like a million things in in like Latin dishes is the sofrito, which has the flavors in it, but they're not dry. It's not dried and powdered. I don't know if they're, you know, like that concept. Like, um, I love a good everything but the bagel seasoning,
Oh
like that it
yeah,
has
yeah,
like the
yeah,
crystallized, the little garlic and the onions.
yeah.
I use
Oh, some
that for a lot.
hummus. Ooh,
Yeah, I use that for a lot of stuff. But ultimately it's just sesame seeds and garlic and
yeah, yeah,
onions and stuff. Like, because so like if I were to make a dish of that like on its own, you would have the flavors. Like we like because like we my standard breakfast is, some eggs, which are getting more and more expensive, some eggs, tomatoes, onions, and I do beans because that's one of the things I still take from doing the
So a
4 hour.
full English breakfast is what you eat?
No, huevos rancheros, more that style, because I put seasoning in there. You know what I mean? Like it's not ketchupy saucy beans. It's just, like the cooked beans. But it is like, and like some, maybe like a salami. The salami is the problem because that's got a lot of salt in it and a lot of but the whole point of it is just like a bowl of nourishment, right? Whatever
Yeah,
that is. And the salami's in there for flavor. You know what I mean? Like this we try to cut back on it. But if I was eating a traditional kind of American breakfast of bacon and eggs, that shit's made up too.
yeah,
Breakfast is a marketing tool also to sell more milk
yeah,
and eggs. So I mean, it's that it's always a thing of like you figure out your ways, right? And at a certain point, I think the judgment of flavors, it's also one of those things that's so incredibly subjective. Have you ever heard
yeah,
someone say that they don't like something and then people lose their minds? Like in terms of like the Keith Lee thing of him saying it's not for me, it's an acquired taste, I just haven't acquired that taste yet, or if
yeah,
it may be for somebody but it's not for me. The most diplomatic way to say you don't like something, that and then people jumped on him for it, but then I would be eating a sandwich and someone would be like, ew, what's in that easy. Your preference or your opinion is not even warranted in this day. Like, you never want to yuck anybody's yum.
yeah,
Like that's straight up a food metaphor. Like, don't do that to people. Like if they're eating, if they want to eat, fizzy wickets and bingle bangles or whatever they call them in the UK, and they're eating like a meat pie in a sandwich that already has French fries, like whatever it
yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah.
a carb on carb on carb, and they want to do that, and it's like, okay, good. Hey, do you like it? It looks, like interesting. But as long as you like it, enjoy, whatever. I'll be here. Like, good luck taking a shit every 3 months, but like, whatever. The the idea, that's inner monologue. I would,
Yeah,
like if somebody likes their food, like just he's a food reviewer and people ask him to go and do things. Like if you ask somebody's opinion and they give it to you and you don't like it, that's one thing. But
yeah,
an unsolicited opinion is also like at the gym when someone comes up to you and is like, "Oh, that's actually like not the best way
yeah,
to work on your this muscle here. Or you got to do the rear delta." And say, I'm trying to pick up groceries. I don't have a lot of time. Leave me
yeah.
alone.
It's funny. The two food things is like, for instance, I'll give two examples. Is taste, as well as people who have opinions on whether or not you should enjoy the flavor of something, and people
Mm.
who say whether or not you should eat it at all because of the health content of it.
Mm.
Where it's like I'm not a fan of sushi, and it's mostly because I don't really like stuff with a lot of vinegar in it, and a lot of the sushi rice is made with
Yeah.
the rice vinegar. I don't like that bitterness. But people are like, "Oh, you don't like sushi?" And it's like it's an offense to them. But on the other side, it's like if I'm eating a bacon cheeseburger, someone goes, "Oh my God, do you know what's in that?" Yes, that's why I'm
Bacon.
eating it.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm an
Delicious
idiot who
flavors.
doesn't know what's in the food I'm eating? Like, and it's like, I'm not going to make fun of somebody for eating what they're eating or say that they have a less palate or that they're
Yeah.
idiots for eating the thing that it's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Food
Like,
is one of the joys you have in life.
yeah. Which like, I mean, it kind of brings it to bring it back around full circle to the show. The when you take care of your body, that they're the body, the mind, and the community, that like the inner physical, the inner metaphysical, and then the how that interacts in the world, on those levels. There's nothing better than eating with people, eating together with someone that you enjoying something. I love, like I love cooking for my wife and making food and all that stuff when I can't. Like there's some joy I get, in making our breakfasts, like there's some joy in that providing, that nurturing. So like like I'm Latino, so if, the whole concept of a like a cute like a because it's not even Latinos, it's like any ethnic grandmother where every ethnicity has their version of that has their version of their grandmother, that if you don't want anything if you go to their house, there will just be food given to you whether you want it or not, that concept.
Yeah.
uh because they may have grown up in a food insecure time, and they're just like, yep, well, I got to make sure you're eating, because you never know, when the Visigoths are going to attack, or whatever, like you never, like there's just so much insecurity about food that it's like that every culture has that of nourishing someone feels good to do. Like it feels good when someone enjoys something you made. It feels good to do that. So like if you're like I think we talked about it, where I think that meat eaters who have vegetarian options at
Oh yeah. Yeah.
their gathering are more kind than vegetarians who refuse to have any kind of meat option for meat eaters, because it is just a subjective choice. Like you could, vegans talk about it being better for the earth, or objectively false, like scientifically proven not a good thing. Like the resources on the earth are more drained through vegan farming practices and all that stuff than it is currently, which is unfortunate, but it's true. So it's like, yeah, like if I welcome you and like, here, this is a vegetarian option. It's a chickpea stir fry with naan bread, and yeah, I got the recipe off of this website. I hope it's good. It's not really my wheelhouse. What a much more like nurturing experience at every level than you go to somebody and it's like, oh, and it's like, here's a cup of steam with some like an air foam. It's like, no, what are you talking about? Yeah, you invited me over for dinner. This isn't nourishing at all.
You
Or
know,
somebody who enforces their dietary practices on you, which is always kind of,
I actually thought about this the other day because there was somebody in the building I worked at was having a party, and like 150 people were going to come to this party in this
mm,
New York City apartment, and the people who live there, the two of them, are in Alcoholics Anonymous. They don't drink at all,
mm, mm, mm.
and they were having a bunch of stuff delivered. And one of the guys was like, "Hey, do you know if I had my alcohol delivered yet?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Oh, it's just for the party. I just have, half the people are there aren't going to drink at all, and half,
Mm.
aren't in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I just, I
Right,
want to have
right.
something for them." And I was like, "How fucking
Yeah, how welcoming.
thoughtful that you're
Yeah,
like, oh, I don't drink, so you can't either." It's like, hey, I am taking responsibility for my own actions. Uh,
yeah.
you know,
I do like that. There's something about every like when I think about like the food, like going back to the British thing, they talk about how that was like the struggle meals, and then they try to compare American struggle meals to their like signature foods or whatever, and they were trying to like make like peanut butter and jelly or whatever, and I'm like, and they were doing like clearly trying to go out of their way to make it like terrible.
yeah,
And then in the comments it was always like, yeah, but our struggle meals are like macaroni and cheese and like just delicious food. It's like crazy good. Like fried chicken is technically a struggle meal because it's supposed to be made with like technically not like the freshest chicken. It's
yeah,
supposed to be, you know what I mean? Like a lot of these things that we take as like rice and beans is poor people food. It's literally like that's the whole point of these meals, and it doesn't mean that it has to be bad. Like you can nourish an entire family around the table with tortillas and beans and whatever stewed meat that they had available to them, that they had to cook for 12 hours because it was as hard as a rock by the time, you know what I mean? Like you had to figure out ways with what you had, like oxtail, that
oh
it's
yeah,
got like
yeah,
a resurgence now, but that used to be the shit that you would get for like pennies because it was trash. It was literally like, we'll see what meat we can get off of these bones. And now it's like a cultural thing because we figured out how to make it as good as possible. So it's like the
yeah.
encouragement there, I guess, is to make whatever you're going to make, try and make it as good and good for you as possible, you know?
My two favorite items that used to be rich people food or poor people food, and vice versa, are
Mm.
peanut butter and pork bellies. Because there was a time when only rich people ate peanut butter, but also pork belly it was just fat. Nobody wanted to eat the fat, so the poor people ate the fat pork bellies. But
Yep.
then they switched, where it's
Yes.
like, oh, you go to the place with the fancy signs and the gastro pub, and they serve the seared pork belly, but then fucking peanut butter, man, it's so
Yeah.
good.
It's so good. Well, we went to my wife and I went to Italy, and we did this tour of like this medieval town or whatever. And they talked about how everyone of the aristocracy had gout because they didn't eat anything but meat because that was what rich people ate. So they would just eat constantly salty, fatty meats, and they all had gout. They all had like crazy, and we were like, did he say we understood that right? They all had gout, and he's like, yeah, they had gout. That's why. Like when you see a lot of these people with like they were dressed, their shoes were weird, or they had to wear like different. It was crazy, and that the poor people all they did was drink a kind of like wine and bread was for poor people. And now like a nice baguette and a wine tasting is like the rich people thing. And like meat is just available, but it used again. There's always it's all propaganda. It's all a scam. There's certain we are part of the food chain. We are animals. We are within the system that can benefit from eating animal protein, eating plant fibers, and doing everything we can to get glucose into our cells as animals. That's it. That is the bottom line. So whatever can do that for you in a way that is not damaging you if you know something's hurting you, your effort should be made to stop it.
Yeah.
That's the end of the line. Like you're like, yeah, flaming hot Cheetos probably not the best thing, but if you're dying and you're starving and all you got is a flaming hot Cheeto, eat it. Sure, why not? If you're struggling and that's a source of comfort for you in a time that you're struggling, eat it. Yeah, of course. Like I feel like guilt is such a heavy thing when it comes to food that it almost like well, I mean, it is the source of so many like what is it? Not disordered eating.
Yeah.
That concept of like people get obsessed. And again, I'm guilty of whatever my subconscious biases are on that too.
Yeah.
So once something's brought to my attention, I have to go through that process of like, no, I mean,
Yeah, I think it's also important to remember
no.
that people are starving not because we can't satisfy the poor, but we can't satisfy the rich.
That's right.
We have so much
Burned it all
food
down.
available.
Yeah.
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 All
Well,
right, let's go bomb something, huh?
let's go address the issues at hand. No, look, we get heavy on the show because it is kind of like when you start thinking about what's going on in the world and how it affects people and what are we doing really to kind of like there's been a lot of on my social media feeds and the algorithms like people who are working out that is in direct opposition to the fascists that took over the fitness influencer space that are like, there's a fascist at the gym right now. Are you? And it's like, oh, wait a minute. I guess that's good motive enough for me.
I do have to say, I really hate that one of the collateral damages that goes along with my gym lifestyle is that probably also because I'm a tall, straight white guy, is that so many people think that I'm down with the RFK stuff, where it's like,
Yes.
no, I just have body dysmorphia. I don't have brain worm.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's a different thing. It's not. They're like, so many people are getting sick with the flu around here. I think it's because of the vaccine. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What I would say in those situations is to take everything I said and throw it away and insult them. I'm done with you know what I mean. Like fuck it. Like what do you create? Like prove it. Like do what that doctor. What was the doctor that you say that
Dr.
challenge?
Mike, yeah, Dr. Mike, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
Dr.
different
Mike
Dr. Mike,
about
but yeah.
it's a different Dr. Mike, not Israel. But where you challenge them, it's like when someone says something that demands some sort of backup, like demand it. You know what I mean? Like, genuinely, like where someone's like, it's because of the vaccines. Why do you think that? And where did you learn it? Doing stand up again, I'm trying to figure out how to make this bit work so you can help me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where I may have mentioned it on the show. When someone tells you something that you know is not like like someone like the my go-to phrase for when someone says that, I immediately start to question everything else, and everyone would say, "Oh, I know it in my heart." And it's like that's not where we know things. We know things in our brains, so much so that I could take my heart out, replace it with another heart, and I would still know in my brain what I know in my brain. You know what I mean? So when someone tells you something that it's like, I know it, I feel it. It's like, okay, I don't care that you know it. Where did you learn it? Where you learned something is so important to me these days. Where if someone's like, I read in a study. Did you read a study, or did you? I'm sorry, which study? You read a Google. You didn't even read it. You saw it on a TikTok video, a reel, an Instagram reel, even worse, on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. It's like then it becomes like the source of information has to like determine like some of its validity. There is no, like, that's the thing I hate about social media now, where there's like, oh, everyone's opinion should be respected. No. Everyone's opinion reveals whether or not they should be respected as a person.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
I think to go along with your stuff about I know it in my heart, the phrase what do you call it? What's the phrase?
What that's going around?
I know it in my heart. What's the phrase?
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
There was this. God damn it! It was gonna go.
Oh, no.
It was gonna go great.
I'm sure it would have landed perfectly.
I know it by heart.
I know it by heart.
Was created back in the day when people thought that all your motor functions and everything came from your heart, from your heart organ.
Sure.
And so they said, I know it by heart, because they thought that's where your soul, your brain, your mind resided. So then later on, they were like, oh no, it's actually your brain is the thing that makes you move and stuff. So it's actually people who say, I know it in my heart, are using outdated information that has been since disproven.
Yeah. I would imagine that there is other things in their thought processes that follow the same line of logic. When you read the study and you're like, when they say something, you're like, that was debunked. Like, are you talking about phrenology? The bumps on people's skulls can tell you about who their personalities. That's not real, and that'll just make them dig in deeper into their wrongness. And it's a shame. It's a shame that I wish there was like some sort of like, that's my delusion, that someone will have their opinion changed based on when confronted with facts.
Yeah.
That's my one flaw, is that I believe that facts will change someone's emotional opinions. And here we are. The aspect that we're dealing with in terms of the world, it does help to bring it back to the individual. So let's talk about what we're doing in our lives to put all this shit into practice. You know what I'm saying? Like,
also, I'd like to point out real quick that this entire rant and venting that we had came from me saying, hey, I just ate a burrito.
That's right. Because all we did.
What was good in your life this past 2 weeks, Will? Well, I had a good burrito.
That's right.
And then let's bomb the UN or whatever it was.
The fucking burrito, man. It was the domino meme, or like the burrito bombing the UN. There is amount of personal look. I blame you for whatever happens in the world because of that fucking burrito. But you did take those that time. That's the thing you chose to highlight in your week. In moving forward, I didn't even talk about my answer to the original question.
Oh yeah, what'd you do this week, Mike?
I played my guitar. Last episode we were talking about like how I wanted to play more music. I pulled it down just a couple days ago, and it reminded me of the steps of fitness, because I've lost the calluses on my fingers when I play guitar, and I was like literally playing, and I would be like playing, and every so often my wife would just hear me go, "Ow!" like I would sit there and like like when you play a bar chord on the guitar, you have to lay this finger flat against the fretboard
Uh,
and push all the strings down. And of course, the first guitar I grab is my 12 string, which has like double the strings. So I'm like, eh, and I could feel like my forearm, like all kind of like everything just like out of shape. That same
yeah, yeah,
concept you feel in the gym. And I had to have like the active thought of like, nope, you got to suffer through these initial steps like you would like I would any kind of muscle soreness like I would at the gym. Like I had to think about it as I was like as working out. And then um I'm at the stage in my guitar playing where I remember very similar to my gym experience where I remember what it was like to for this to be a thing I did regularly and the muscles I used and what did I used to play and I learned so many songs and why can't I remember, and I had to sit there and remember. So I'm at that stage in the gym where you're like the first week back and you're like rediscovering like what movement do I do here and what is that's not a good move. Let me come back and do this one. Let me organize. Let me just be here for a little while, get the sensations down, and then next week I'll get the specific training methods in place.
yeah,
Like when I practice, like maybe the next time I play my guitar, I'll do the scales that I normally should be doing to build up my actual like dexterity, as opposed to just sitting there trying to play like I remember this Stone Temple Pilot song, like do I remember this? Anyway, here's
yeah.
Wonderwall, like that concept of like just goofing around versus like actually training,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
the. I think it's the equivalent of like you pick up the guitar and you're like, I'm gonna play Stairway to Heaven is the same thing as going like back to the gym for the first time. You're like, I'm gonna max out.
Yes, it totally did feel. I mean, I you can feel this. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna destroy pull a muscle or strain my spine out of my butthole, or like. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
definitely the risk is different. But it definitely you do feel like that immediate like, oh no, I am out of practice. That concept. But yeah, that's what I did for the week. And to be fair, that's going to be my body goal for this week. I'm not going to, the fitness will not be the goal. It will be, I want to play my piano that's in front of me right now. And I want to play my guitar and I want to build the muscles of that physical training. I'm still going to try to go to the gym and work out as much as I can, but the focus will be on the specific music muscles for my body. It absolutely helps my brain 1000%. um well, you know what, we should, but let's do it. Let's do it so I can put a tag here, maybe edit it later, see if I do that one more time. Every week we talk about how we're going to what we're going to focus on body, mind, and community, and we'll review that and talk about what we're going into the next week. My last episode, we talked about my focus was going to be on lifting, doing like the heavy lift, like just lifting and not doing the cardio as much, which I did do. I went back and I was doing less time in the cardio because I felt like it was taking up too much time to really get
hmm
like a quick gym session in. And I did end up doing that. And I was doing like multiple, I think I sent you some, and then I was just kind of doing like just going in there to do the things on the list. I even talked to like the guys at the gym. They were like, "Oh, what are you working on today?" I'm like, "Whatever's on the app." And then he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, I'm trying to take my thinking out of it and just come in here, do the thing I'm supposed to be doing, and then move, and then that's it. This is a chore, and I did kind of stick to that a little bit in the first week since we recorded, but in the second week it slipped a little bit. But we'll focus on that this week. But my main focus this week will be the guitar, the music muscles, like the Music
hmm
Man. What about you? Your last episode, you were like to learn the new gym equipment at the gym.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
think I've
what's
been
your
doing
goals
better
for
with
this
that.
week?
So this week, I am going to. I kind of understand because even though it's like all the similar movements, similar machines, but they are better machines and high quality machines. Also, I haven't prior to joining this new gym, I haven't really used free weight barbells in a
Mm.
while because Planet Fitness only had the Smith machine on the isolated track. So there was also a thing of one of the reasons I did switch from Planet Fitness. I think I told you is because like the bar path as you moved it up the Smith machine would like twist, so the bar path was never in the same position at the top as it was in the bottom. So I did
Right.
notice over time that my right shoulder has been my right shoulder, my left wrist is actually like not in correct position. Like as I'm trying to use the barbells, it's like wobbling.
Ah,
So I'm like, oh,
interesting.
I need to retrain, almost in the same way that you have to retrain your fingers for the guitar. It's like I have to retrain. Like I haven't done a true barbell exercises since like fucking almost like high school, where I'm like ah.
Right.
So it's
Yeah,
like
where you have
the whole
to,
stabilization muscles and
yeah, all of those
there's like
extra.
an imbalance in my right trap versus my left, and it's like,
Mm,
oh man, like this is a whole new thing I got to do.
that's interesting. So you've been given freedom, and now you have to learn to to contain yourself in that freedom.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, the free weights. Again, that's why kind of I guess I have always kind of been drawn to dumbbells because of that.
yeah,
Like the dumbbells have really made me like that. Like I always feel like not only am I doing the exercise, but I'm building up the balance of
hmm,
that kind of exercise, especially since there's no bar and there's nothing connected. So it's like each hand individually has to be doing its own thing, you know?
yeah,
And that's yeah, I can see how that will be uh a learning curve if you haven't done that in a while.
yeah. And
How
even
do you
like
think?
even the Smith machine they have there isn't like a fixed path. It's like a free motion style Smith machine that like
Oh
slides.
yeah.
So it's not if you do wobble a little bit, it'll actually kind of wobble with you, but you can like correct it. But then it does allow you to press yourself further so that you can do like straight up go to failure. So it's like there are like
Yeah.
muscles I'm working where I'm like, oh, I've never pushed it. I've thought I've gone to failure, but now I'm like actually going to failure.
Interesting. How do you feel? So your mind focus last week was to focus on the newness of all of this experience. How do you feel like you've done that? And is that something that's going to have to continue, or what are you going to? How do you think this is going to go affect your mind, and what are you going to really try for mentally this week?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty much similar path where it's not only not only do I have to focus on how to use these new machines, but I'm also like realizing I have to change up the order in which I'm doing the certain exercises.
Mm.
Well, I feel like if I do flies first, like if I get on the fly machine, like a chest fly machine, it's gonna warm me up better than if I had just straight up gone to like a pressing movement. If I had gone to dumbbells or if I had gone to uh, the bar or whatever it is. Like if I do flies first, it's gonna send more blood into my muscles. It's gonna
Mm.
get my tendons more stretched and everything like that. So it's like, oh, now I have to play with the order in which I do these exercises, and even in
Oh.
the order where it's like, uh, I tried to finish today with dumbbells, and I'm just like, I can't lift the same amount of dumbbells because I've worked the other ones. So it's like I have to go lower with
Oh.
my dumbbell weight because I'm so fatigued from the earlier exercises and the order I've done them. So it's like it's fascinating to see like just I have to change up based on how my body is feeling in fatigue wise.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, the order of things, the timing of things, like when you have to kind of put that into your own head when it's like when you're given too much freedom. It's
Yeah,
like, hey, you can do whatever you want, and you're like, there's that the paralysis of possibility that like that you're like, and then it's like when I have all day off today to do whatever I want, and then you look at the clock and it's 8 o'clock at night, and you've just been sitting there watching shit on your phone, and you're like, oh no, I didn't do any of the things I wanted to do. That I had the freedom to do. I didn't do any of it. So in this context, you're like, you have the freedom to do whatever you want in terms of the motion on stuff. Now you have to consciously take over what you depended on the training wheels, the guide rails,
yeah, yeah,
for in the past. And that's kind of a thing you can do. Like that's kind of a big step in any practice. Like with the music thing, that's a good. I'm gonna steal that also. Like embracing the freedom of things, because the self at a certain point, we're all adults. We can eat whatever we want. We can have ice cream for dinner, or whatever it is. You know that saying.
yeah,
The best thing about being an adult is I can have ice cream for dinner. The worst thing for an adult is I can have ice cream for dinner. That finding ways in which not to think of freedom as this kind of big, kind of ubiquitous thing, but like giving yourself systems to operate in,
yeah,
like, and figuring out the most efficient system. I think is a way to do that. Like again, like me figuring out which training methods I will be focused on. Like, what do I really want to play learning? Do I want to plug my electric in and start playing like a rock music more, or do I want to sit and I want to play more rhythm guitar and learn some new chord music theory, things like that? That giving myself a system to practice in will be, I think, my focus.
Yeah.
Like finding a system for thinking, like giving myself a system to play in for a little while.
Yeah.
Self-imposed restrictions, I guess.
The burden of freedom.
It does feel like because I think people want this is the nature of like that the we all want to grow up too fast. Like I yearn for the days, like nostalgia is a drug. It's a privilege in a
Yeah.
way that you can yearn for a time when as a kid I didn't have to worry about things that I'd worry about now, like that feeling. But every other aspect of my life was much more regimented and overseen by others. You know what I mean? Like the like if I woke up in the morning and I decided to eat a whole box of cereal, I would get in trouble for that. If I woke up in the morning and like made a mess, or if I did something or whatever it was, there was like I didn't want to go to school or whatever, there was a system, many systems in place that weren't my choice, and I was like, man, I can't wait to be done with this. And now I'm like, please, just somebody tell me what to do, just let me go, just somebody provide my meals for me, and let me just focus on the things like that were fun, and that's like a yearning of that double edge, that thing of like, I want the freedom, but there's parts of that freedom now that I'm come with responsibility, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
no.
You ever go to like an all you can eat buffet and you're like, hell yeah, this is amazing. But then you're like, I don't know, I could just eat all the prime rib, but they also have fucking all this dessert. They have chicken wings, they have chicken fingers. It's like,
Yeah,
which I can't eat all of it. There's so many options that are great.
I'm gonna tell you right
And
now,
then,
my wife and I went to this place called the Clark Street Diner. We've been there before. It's just a diner, but it's one of these diners in like a frou-frou hipster neighborhood that charges like it was just not fun, right? And then when I got there, I was like, the pressure was on. I was like, oh, you know what I feel like having, and I wanted to get like a lox bagel, thing,
yeah, yeah.
right? Now this is LA, not New York, so I've struggled to find a good bagel here in LA, and I had forgotten it. So I was just like, oh, let me order. When it came, it was like $22, and it had like 3 ounces of salmon, and the rest was just bullshit. It was like one bagel, a little bit of salmon, a little tiny cup of cream cheese, and then like a bunch of like capers and tomatoes and fucking whatever. I didn't order a salad. I ordered lox bagel. That's it. Like, and then I ate it. I was like, oh well, that's what I ordered. And it made me upset because I was full of food and I couldn't justify getting another thing that I would have enjoyed more because I already ate it. And I was like, man, that sucks. I should have returned it. I should have been like, no, this is wrong. I would like to change my order, please. This is like, this is bad. But I didn't. So, and afterwards I was like, I guess that's the risk you take for having the freedom to choose whatever you want to eat, is that sometimes you choose and it's not good. Well, guess what? I'm never going back to that place again. And if they force me to go back to that place, I'm not going to get that thing again. So it's like, yeah, I may have had the freedom to. The burden is you have the freedom to make as many mistakes
Yeah.
as you can. Like that, all of that's still in there. The possibility of failure is still present. Like there's that Jim Carrey quote. He's like, you can still fail at doing the things you don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So why don't you fail doing the things you want to do? And it's like, yep, that feels. As I looked at that sad salmon, I was like, yeah, Jim Carrey, you're right. Um, how do we taking this out into the world? I'm not going back to that Clark Street Diner. That's my
Yeah.
mission. You said that you were going to focus on the new people at the gym. Did you make any new friends? Did you do any of that sort of socializing that you were hopeful to do, or was that?
You know what I did is I didn't socialize with anybody because I've realized this is that especially since it's almost like a communal living situation where so many of the
Mm,
people at gyms are the same people, and I want to this is what I realized over the week. I want
Yeah.
to make sure if I do talk to anybody, they're not going to be weird, like weird in a bad way. Like I want to
Yeah.
make sure
Well,
because
these are
like there are a
those
lot of weird
times.
people out there, a lot
Yeah.
of weird people in the fitness community where it's like I don't want to like have to say hi to this person every time I go to the gym. I'd rather, because when I go, I'm kind of a solitary and I work on my stuff and then I leave. I don't really talk and
Yeah.
stuff, but I'm still
Yeah.
friendly with everybody. But I don't want to feel obligated to say hello to somebody who's a fucking weirdo. So I'm still in the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
watching, like, you know,
You're doing a
who's who,
reconnaissance.
who's making the cut? Who's worthy of a hello?
That's kind of an exercise in freedom too, because you have the freedom to engage with who you want. You now you can choose who you engage. A selective freedom is uh, selective freedom in engagement. We'll call it
Yeah,
because it is true. Now you have that freedom of being like, no, 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 we're not just doing that with everybody. I'm not going to just, especially if that's a kind of a sacred place for you to go do your thing and
yeah.
leave. Like that feels like an important distinction to make. You inspired me last week with the newness, and I was like, oh, I'm going to say hello to everyone everywhere, right? So like, say hello, and I have been doing that, and
Oh, nice.
like the guys at the gym that I was joking around with about doing stuff. We ended up just chit chatting while they were working. They were using the cable machine next to me, and they were working in and doing some other stuff. So we were just too close to each other to in this empty gym to not talk to each other. It would have been weirder for me to be like stone quiet, like a
Yeah, yeah,
statue. So we were just like chit chatting and whatever, blah blah blah. But I have been like more trying to be more social. Like if I want, like there's when in my I've been doing improv comedy and meeting some new people that way. I've been saying what's up to everyone and just kind of being cool with everyone and trying like that. I like that. I'm like, hey, you're cool. You're again the selective engagement. And I fear I may be the weirdo to some of these people that you would steer clear from because I'm just like talking, hey, whatever. And um
when I say weirdo, I don't mean somebody who's overly friendly. I mean somebody who's gonna be
a
like
Nazi.
a Nazi or like
Yeah.
vaccines and
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
one of
yeah,
those
yeah.
things or I do have to say my gym is in Chelsea, New
Oh,
York.
you're gonna get flirted on.
So I don't want to lead people on with the wrong impression
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Gotcha. Um, yes, I fear man, I don't know. I still want to say hello to everybody, but I have been like in comedy mode, and I fear I may be that guy. Like I also forget that I'm a giant man sometimes, and I'm
Yeah,
like
yeah.
trying to be goofy. That it may not come off as I intend because they just see like an ogre of a person going like ha ha ha, ha me funny, like I'm sure they don't process it the way I would like them to, like
They're like, all right, calm
uh
down, Hodor.
oh, I get it. But I was talking to somebody and I was like trying to like they were talking about their show um that was trans inclusive and it was basically women focused, and I was trying to ask the question of like the audience that came, was it trans people and women and non-binary people and women, or was there guys there? And I was like, I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I got the impression that she thought I was judging that. And I'm like, no, no, no.
Uh,
And then I tried, and I feel like I told her, and I was like, no, no, no. It's because when I used to run a show, remember the show that I ran in the comic book store that was roasting the things,
yeah,
roasting
yeah,
the
yeah.
fictional characters, and then there was the all lady Ghostbusters reboot, and then I booked all women. I didn't tell anybody anything. I was just consistently going to book nothing but women on that show for that thing and not mention it. I was like, and then when I was like, no, 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 and I booked a show and I booked all women and I didn't tell anybody. And then I was like, no, wait. And I felt like I pulled no, I have a black friend. Like that concept of like, I got questioned and I was trying to like prove my allyship.
Yeah, yeah.
But because of how I look, they may have assumed, like I feel like that they assumed I was wrong on the wrong side of history because of how I look. And then I was like, no, no, wait, I'm a good ally. And then I feel like anything I did in that moment was just more repellent. That it was hard to. I feel like I became that person, but I did check out character assassination Ghostbusters, and I came out as a ghost at the end to be the one that was being roasted. Um, yeah, I think that because I'm going to try and get group activities going. I think that's going to be my goal for the community, just because I want to. The music is an interesting thing in my life. I'm like super like all the neurons are firing about the music, and there's nothing more fun than playing music with people. Like when you get to play as a group, because it all kind of like blends together, and you get to the harmony is important. And but the like when it comes to different instruments, that feeling of coming together as a band is always really fun and very energizing. So I'm gonna try and get the band together, you know,
Mm.
when it in every aspect, you know, like get the like I made a friend, this guy Zach at the gym, like that's whenever I see him in the gym, he's part of my band now. You know, when I see these dudes, Dan and Ezra, yeah, they're part of my band now of gym people, and we're gonna do the gym things. And then there's my comedy people, and we're gonna do that band. And now I got to find music people, so I'm trying to get the band together. That's my community goal.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're like
Uh,
Kermit in the Muppets.
I am like Kermit in the Muppets. I I 100%. Yeah. Great. I want to be Dr. Teeth, but I'm probably a Kermit. You know what I mean?
But you
Um,
look like a Snookums.
yes, I'm fully one of those hairy walking around Muppets. That is the perfect one, man. You got me. You got me. Um, well, another flawless episode in the books.
Flawless.
Well, we've done it again. What a wonderful time. I love talking to you. Thank you for being my friend. And thank you if you're watching this in the future. I'm thankful there is one. I appreciate you. Let us know you watched it. You can follow us at Zeros on Heroes on all social media platforms. Shoot us a message, or you can follow us individually at Mike Mercadal, at William A. Watkins. And you can send questions and comments, and then send your progress. Are you kicking ass and you want us to show it off? Go ahead. This is the place to do it. We're providing a platform for you to be proud of yourself. Do it. Zerosonheroes at gmail.com. And then we'll talk about it on the show. If you have any other interest in fun pop culture things, you can check out the other show I do with my friend Nary Signs on the Woobro Pod. What's Up Bro podcast.
Ooh,
You can at Woobro Pod on all social media platforms, and follow there, and you can be notified when we do that, where we're going to talk about Captain America, the new one, and we're going to talk about the Oscars or whatever that's happening soon, or that's where we do all of that sort of thing. Which again feels, if it strikes more interest than getting mad at the world and improving yourself to fight fascists, then go watch that one. That's at Woobro Pod on all social media platforms. Will, is there anything you'd like to promote before we go?
no.
Nope. That's perfect answer. Thank you so much, everybody. Hey, Will, looking good.
Hey, I'm just trying to look like you, man.
Just trying to look like you, bro. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Remember to go out and be
Be
heroic.
heroic.